Hello everyone, I'm Alessandro. This is Yellow here with me. And as you see, I asked Yellow to sit down, and probably that was not so sustainable for him. He just left. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about sustainable and what sustainable can mean for your profession and in the course in general. So, sustainable usually is understood mostly in the context of nature, and the definition is to maintain something in an indefinite way. Of course, nature maintains itself in an indefinite way, but there's a lot of transformation in it, and every little single part of nature is not sustainable indefinitely. There is no such a thing as immortality in nature. And so the idea behind sustainability that maybe we prefer to work with is this idea that we somehow need to make sure that whatever we do in our lives and in our processes of life turns into something that is useful for nature, turns into a nutrient. Any of these plants, when their life cycle is over, will be transformed into soil. And hopefully that's also what will happen to us. And so the idea of sustainable has also a lot to do about regenerative processes, which means to bring things back into a state of health, because we've been doing a lot of harm to our environment. We have started to introduce things that are not compatible with life. A lot of polymers, plastics are not yet compatible with life, because I'm curious to see 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years from now, I'm sure that life will have adapted. We will not be here because we don't eat plastic, but a lot of living organisms will be eating the plastic that we have left behind. Anyway, let's try maybe not to get there so that we are a bit more sustainable in terms of a species. And so the idea over here is to reflect a little bit, how can I transform my profession into something that as an end result, apart from all the services and the good things that we make, we also go back into the cycle of life. And so we produce things that nature can use as a nutrient. So that's the environmental side of sustainable. But there's also a more human side of sustainable, especially connected to the professions and to competence and so on, which is the ability of people to do the thing that they're doing in an indefinite way. And so that means avoiding burnout, that means avoiding boredom, that means avoiding situations where you feel stressed or overstressed. A bit of stress is fine, but a lot of stress during a lot of time becomes really non-healthy, non-sustainable. And so the idea is, how can we transform our profession so that people that work on it, including ourselves, can do that at the best of their ability, while having fun if possible, or while challenging themselves to get to become masters, and avoiding this unsustainability in terms of, well, I get sick or I get bored or so and so on. And the last part of sustainability in reality is not so mentioned usually, but there's also an economic part, and so an economically sustainable activity. And that means on one side an activity where you can make money and so sustain it, but also think of sustainability from the other side of the picture. So are your clients able to afford what you produce or afford what you offer as a service? And so this idea of balancing the price is not because the market is telling us, not because of demand and supply, which is a very old idea of balancing the economy. And it's more about, well, if we're doing something useful for our community, if we're helping people, should that cost a lot? Should that cost a little bit less? Should it cost more for people who can afford more and less for people who can afford less? Or should we have a price for everyone and we don't care? So this is a bit the idea and the reflection that you could start thinking about when you are turning your profession into a sustainable one. So this is a bit of an introduction, very short, but as usual, you can still contact us in our social media channels, in the communication channels that we have open, and I'm looking forward to see how you transform your profession into a sustainable one.